Hello, this is John Feldt of Blue Water Outlook, and this is a briefing for the Midwest floods as of 6 p.m. Wednesday, May 29th. Wanted to sort of start off by setting the stage for this event. The upper Midwest has been very wet, starting with the winter season and now heading into spring. This shows the soil moisture anomalies, and it's showing the areas in that dark green are much wetter than normal. And because it's much wetter, any rain that falls on that area is going to go into runoff and produce more runoff than would be normal for this time of year. Now, if we look at the last 30 days percent of normal, the areas of blue really show where the heaviest rain has occurred over the last month. The blue is 200% of normal precipitation, the dark blue. Purple is 3 times normal precipitation. So that sort of sets up the stage where it's been very wet, soil moisture is very high, and additional rain is going to run off into rivers very quickly. Now, taking a look a little bit closer over the last 5 days, you can see we've had a widespread rain. Now, keep in mind that when we talk about river flooding, we don't look so much for point values. One location might get 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 inches of rain. It's more important to look at how widespread the rain was, or what we call basin scale. And what you see here is the areas of yellow, that's over 3 inches of rain. And looking at Iowa and northern Missouri and parts of Illinois, that's a pretty widespread area of 3 inches of rain. And within there, we see those pockets of 4 inches in the darker yellow, and then pockets of red of 6 inches in more scattered areas. So I've seen more extensive rain, but this is still a pretty heavy rain. And when you combine it with the areas that have been very wet and the enhanced runoff, a lot of that rain is going to get into rivers. Now, I wanted to put a perspective of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois basin and their drainages. You can see here that the Mississippi or the Missouri River basin is right in here. So this area, this is the last 5 days rainfall. The yellow has fallen in the Missouri River drainage. This is into the rivers in Iowa that lead into the Mississippi River, such as the Des Moines River, the Iowa River, and parts of the Cedar River basin. And then we have the Illinois River coming in right here. So really, it looks like most of the heaviest rain has fallen over the Mississippi, or rivers that drain into the Mississippi. But I think you can also see there was significant rain in the Missouri and Illinois as well. So all 3 of these river systems will be feeding into the Mississippi River at some point. Well, let's take a look at precipitable water. We have a lot of high atmospheric moisture in the area. 1.7, 1.8, those lines there indicate the total amount of moisture in the atmospheric column, all the way from the surface up to high in the atmosphere. And this is unusual. This is actually about the 75th percentile or even higher for this time of year. And when you get these types of readings this time of year, it says there's a lot of potential moisture that can be wrung out of the atmosphere. And with that high soil moisture, keep in mind that's going to go into rivers with the enhanced runoff. Now, let's look at where it's coming from, and this is moisture transport, and it's transporting up from the Gulf of Mexico up through Oklahoma, Kansas, well up into Iowa. So one of the things we know with this rain event is we know we have a lot of moisture, and that's why you look at the radar echoes here. You see very strong reflectivities, which is indicating a lot of moisture in these cells. So we know we have a lot of moisture. We have upper level support. We have a boundary that it's feeding on. So there is the forecast for heavy rain over the next several days. Matter of fact, let's look at these rainfall forecasts. This is the forecast for day 1. The blue is indicating of rainfall amounts of 1 inch or more, and you can see a fairly wide rainfall of 1 inch or more across the Missouri and Mississippi River drainages, as well as the Des Moines and Iowa River drainage that moves into the Mississippi River. Now, if we look at day 2, you see it's enhanced. We get into that area of 2 inches. That's that area of purple. And that also is over the Missouri River, parts of the Mississippi River. And one of the points I want to make is when you have bands of rain, heavy rain like this on multiple days, and when it's moving down the river basin, so in other words, it's moving down this way over multiple days, what's going to happen is this heavy rain, to some degree, is going to be falling on water that's already coming down from upstream, and that can enhance the amount of flooding. Now, it's not so much so on the main stem rivers, but I think there'll still be an impact on this. As the water's coming down from the north, you're going to have additional rain falling a little bit further south. And you even see that on day 3, it's beginning to move out of the Missouri River basin further south, but you still have enhanced rainfall. So we have 3 days of significant rainfall over the parts of the Midwest for the Missouri, the Des Moines, the Iowa, the Illinois rivers, and all their tributaries that are feeding into the Mississippi River, and that's going to really pose the threat for very significant flooding over parts of the Mississippi River and these rivers I just mentioned. So here's the total rainfall forecast for the next 5 days. What we have here, as you can see, we have rainfall getting up to around 5 inches, 3 to 5 inches. And remember what I said, it's look how widespread it is. And that's what really concerns me, is the widespread nature of this rainfall. Look at how much of the Missouri River drainage over Missouri is in that 4 or 5 inches of rain, and in the Illinois River basin as well, 3 to 4 inches of rain. So that's very significant over the next 5 days. Okay, so looking at rivers, right now, another problem we have, other than soil moisture being high and heavy rain, rivers are starting off pretty high. Now, red is moderate flooding, purple is major flooding, and minor flooding is orange, and that's what I'm going to refer to as I go through this briefing. So rivers are starting off quite high, so in addition to the soil moisture and the heavy rain, rivers are starting off high, so it doesn't take a whole lot to get back into flood stage. So the next 5 days, this does not include all the rainfall, and that's something that's very important to keep in mind, that river forecasts have different degrees of rainfall in there. That is done because we recognize that the accuracy of rainfall forecasts farther out is not all that accurate, so we give a river forecast that's more certain and another river forecast that's more of a contingency or worst case. So I wanted to show for the next 5 days, you see a scattering mainly on the Mississippi River of major flooding. Those are those purple boxes. The red is the moderate flooding, and then you see on the Missouri River scattering of minor to moderate, as well as on the Illinois and parts of Iowa and Des Moines River Basin. And that's based on the next several days, next 5 days for the forecast, but rainfall for the next couple days. It's a more short-term rainfall. Now, if we go out and look a little bit further, and this puts all the rain in there that I gave the briefing on, looks a lot more dramatic here. We see a lot more major flooding. This becomes a very major flood event. So really it depends on how much rain occurs right now. We're in the more uncertain part of this forecast. The rain has not occurred, and I know there will be some changes in the rainfall forecast, but the worst case scenario with all the rain in there is showing a very significant major flood on all these areas, Illinois River, Mississippi River, as it moves downstream. So very significant river flood. So the takeaway points, significant flooding is likely, highly likely along the Illinois, Mississippi, and Missouri River drainages and their tributaries. The Mississippi likely impacted the most from Burlington, Iowa to Lock and Dam 24 north of St. Louis. Now keep in mind, changes to rainfall forecast highly likely, and that will impact river forecast. Most accurate river forecasts will be put out once we have that rain on the ground. Now, I want to remind you to refer to official Weather Service information for specific forecasts and warnings, and I will be updating this briefing again tomorrow. Thank you for listening.